town was partially washed away by the river. Epic amount of misinformation. Some of the hardest hit areas in Fairview were out Guerin Creek. That's not a thing. That didn't happen. I know the Cane Creek, I think they said it crested at like 30 feet. FEMA had taken over Fairview. As far as them bulldozing Chimney Rock, any of these government organizations that they're talking about coming in trying to buy anybody's land, people coming in that don't need to be there. Of that, we had an influencer come in a Tesla with paper tags promising to buy people new cars and new houses. No, we finished that like 10 days ago. Like, this is not even a thing anymore. We are trying to capitalize on other people's misfortune because those remains are buried under debris. Every bridge in Gerton was washed out. That's where you're going to make a big impact.
I was 90 years old when I experienced my first loss and my first grief. It was when my grandmother died, my mom's mom. And I remember for the very first time, that feeling of confusion, and I was trying everything I could to fight back tears and not to start crying, I don't know why, and clenching my teeth. And remember how I would wake up and it would take me a few seconds to realize what had happened, to realize that I'm waking up to a nightmare. And so over 30 years later, I have this feeling again here in Asheville, in the Asheville area. And it's such a big contrast here too, some areas were completely unaffected except for, losing utilities. And then some other ones were so severely damaged and destroyed that it's hard to comprehend and even put it in words. And so this channel has always been about living in the Asheville area, and my team and I have been helping people relocate to the Asheville area. Helping others has always been my goal. I would like to use this platform to ask for help in return. This is basically the only way I know how to go through this grieving process, if you would. Somebody made a comment on my previous video saying that you can run from it, but you cannot hide from it, about the storm. And at a time, I thought it was kind of cruel, but now, a little over 2 weeks later, it's really sinking in, and I realized that you cannot hide from it. You cannot hide from the consequences. You cannot hide from what had happened to other people all around you. So I would like to use this platform to not only share updates about various parts of Western North Carolina, of the Asheville area, but also share stories of people who have been affected by this tragedy. All the news about the storm, the Helene in the mountains, will fade away soon. But people will need support for weeks and months to come. It's going to take community effort, just like it's been from day one here in the mountains. It's been community who came together for everyone. And we need your help. We need your support. We need eyes on this, so that people continue getting support.
So my name is Jamie White. I am a firefighter EMT at Gerton Fire Department, and I live in Gerton, North Carolina.
I know that you personally was affected by the storm, by the big storm. What happened to your property?
I was in briefings leading up to the storm on the county and the state level. We talked a lot about the severity of the storm, how it was going to be a 100-year storm, and that went to a 500-year storm. And, we had all this information comparing it to the 1916 flood, which we know is a big historical event that caused a lot of damage in our region, Gerton, Bat Cave, Chimney Rock area specifically. I don't think anybody really expected it to be as bad as it was. So initially I had planned to be at the station. I was supposed to be doing an overnight at the station. My family would have been home alone up on Bearwallow Mountain where we live. Through some other circumstances, it turned out that 2 other people had decided they were going to do the overnight, and they had already taken the bedrooms. So I was like, actually, that works out great. Now I can stay at home with my family. And I'm incredibly grateful that happened, because they would have been alone at our house when this storm hit, and I would have been completely cut off from them. The road to our house was completely destroyed. It was a river that was 5 feet deep in most places, and there was a 12-foot waterfall where a 10-foot culvert had washed out in one section of that road. And then the river had kind of made its own path and cut us off completely from the town of Gerton by the end of it. The storm was in its worst, I would say, 4, 5, 6 a.m. We were taking 80 to 100 mile an hour winds directly out of the southeast and the east. Our house has a view that faces the southeast and the east, so there was nothing obstructing the wind. At our house specifically, we took the brunt of all of that. I believe we had gusts over 100 miles an hour with sustained winds over 60 for a few hours straight. A tree broke, landed on our roof, caused damage to the roof that caused water to start coming into the house. All the windows facing the east direction failed. Water was coming in the windows just from the wind-driven rain, and the roof was making some noises that I've never heard it make before. That led me to believe that it was beginning to fail. So about 5 o'clock in the morning, I took my family into the walkout basement section of our home and boarded it up from the inside. And I started supporting the floor joists, thinking that there was a good chance the upper story was going to collapse in on itself or the wind was going to take the roof off of the house. So I wanted to make sure we had extra support down in the basement to protect us.
Mm-hmm. And so a few days later, we kind of all knew that Gerton was one of those areas that got hit really, really hard. And that's the area that's leading up to, it's kind of between Fairview and Chimney Rock, Lake Lure.
Yes,
and it was completely destroyed.
Yeah, it took us an entire day just to cut down Ridge Vista Road to Bearwallow Mountain Road and find that the road was destroyed. We didn't even get into town until day 2 because we didn't have a way to get across the water level that was dividing us on Bearwallow Mountain Road from the town of Gerton. There were 2 firefighters stationed at the station, and there were 2 of us who were up the mountain. And the 2 of us were the ones who had cut to Bearwallow Mountain Road to find that we could not make access to town. That day, I took a compass heading and went through the woods to the top of Bearwallow Mountain, and then took the Fire Tower Road down to the paved road at the top there near Grand Highlands neighborhood, and was able to get cell phone reception. The only information we had at that point was coming out via our radios, which it was kind of spotty as well because I believe some of the towers had some minor damage. They were working pretty good, but basically at that time we were under the impression that we may have even lost Bat Cave's station entirely, which we didn't. One of those things where, oh, this is gone, and then it wasn't actually gone. It was pretty severely flooded, but it wasn't gone. So we knew that we had pockets of rescuers, first responders, who were cut off from their districts by, downed trees, downed power lines, water levels, damage. We didn't really get any centralized communication and really get eyes on everything until day 2.
And despite the fact that basically you had your house severely damaged, you don't know what the condition of it still is. It's not determined by insurance. You had to, of course, go and fulfill your duty as a firefighter and a first responder and a rescuer and all those things for all these people that were kind of in the same shoes, like that you were in with your family, trapped in your house. Nobody could get to you. You could not get out. And there were probably hundreds of people like that in that little area.
Yeah, we have approximately 300 people just in Gerton, and that's not including Bat Cave's district. And I knew my family was safe. My wife and my daughter, they were safe. We had supplies. They were okay. So that meant that the priority was making sure that everybody else was okay, which was a pretty massive job considering that there was really no vehicle travel at that point. There were too many down trees, too many down power lines. Roads were washed away. Everything was going to be on foot initially. So myself and another firefighter technical rescuer from Gerton, it was really just the 2 of us. And we had two men at the station, and they were able to kind of handle the command side of things. They had to stay there because people were coming to the station. People who could get out and walk to the station were coming there. And then myself and another rescuer, we started to branch out on foot. And the goal in that initial 2 days was to get eyes on every single person in our district, and make sure that everybody was okay and address any emergent concerns. Anybody who had emergency medical issues that needed to be handled right now, anybody that needed to be evacuated right now, that was our task. So we probably walked close to 200 miles in the first 4 days because, again, foot travel was the only way we could get around our district. But we were able to get eyes on and get accountability for everyone in our fire district within the first 2 to 4 days.
And when you say accountability, you mean you were able to identify everyone, get to them, get supplies to them if needed? And
visually see that they were there and assess them in person, which was a pretty big undertaking, but we were able to do it.
And who was helping you?
There was another firefighter. I won't say his name because I don't have his permission, but one of my good friends at Gerton.
Who else was helping you outside of local people?
We didn't get any help from anyone else until I want to say it was like day 4 or 5. The timeline's a little bit all meshed together in my head, but it was days into it. I mean, we were completely cut off from everybody else. The road to Bat Cave, 74 Gerton Highway, was washed out in 10 different places for more than 100 feet. The river had kind of made its own path through there, so there was absolutely no way anybody could get to us from the Bat Cave direction. Plus, Bat Cave was cut off from Hendersonville via the 64 bridge that had been washed away. And there were who knows how many landslides on Route 9, including a very large landslide just outside of Bat Cave. So there was no way for anybody to get into us. 74 from Fairview was the first road to be cleared. DOT started working up that road and got us a path up there. It may have been day 3 or 4, but even though the path to Fairview was clear, Fairview had its own problems, and that's Buncombe County. We're Henderson County. So we didn't really have a way to get help from the outside for the first few days because nobody could reach us. Our biggest concern was getting to Bat Cave and getting them assistance because they are a mutual aid department for us. We have a close relationship with them. We wanted to make sure that them and their residents were safe. Chimney Rock is technically Rutherford County, and they were a whole nother distance away that we could not reach with any kind of urgency. So it was kind of like we almost became one district at that point, and kind of we took care of what we could access and they took care of what they could access, and we just kind of worked together in that regard.
So this warehouse is in Fairview. This is where your base is, so to speak. Do you know anything about Fairview? How Fairview did?
So currently, I know that Fairview has a lot of residents who are still without power and still without water. I believe most of Fairview is still without water.
Because they own the wells and they need power for that?
Power in order to generate the wells. And then we also have city water out here, and we can't use the city water because it may be contaminated from the storm. Some of the hardest hit areas in Fairview were out Guerin Creek. Anywhere near a water source had significant flooding. I know the Cane Creek, I think they said it crested at like 30 feet, which is just mind-blowing. There were a lot of landslides out Old Fort Road and Guerin Creek. Unfortunately, there was loss of life in this area, and a significant amount of recovery going on out that way. I don't work for Fairview's fire department, so I can't speak on numbers or specifics because I don't know. Just
from what you see.
I know that for a long time, there are going to be people with needs here in Fairview because they lost their homes, and they're not going to be able to have access to power and water. It's going to be weeks for a lot of people here, as well as in the mountains where I'm from. We've worked with Fairview Fire Department a little bit, just discussing the supply situation, and I think they're planning on probably 6 months of supplying the community with supplies, and that's what we're doing too. That's kind of what we're planning on too. And I will say that the community in Fairview has really come together. There's multiple supply locations around the community that are prepared to supply the needs of the residents for as long as it takes. I will try to send you some information on that too, so you can put it in your video.
Thank you. I think everyone is seeing on internet, on all those big accounts, that they reshare those crazy stories about what's happening in not just Fairview, this area, but specifically past Gerton, up towards Lake Lure, Chimney Rock. The road is gone. The river became the road became the river. And that, it's kind of hard to even distinguish where the road was, where the river is. The rumors and everything that's been circulating about bodies up on the trees. What did you see?
So there's been a epic amount of misinformation from the start of this. At one point, somebody came up from Fairview one day and told me that FEMA had taken over Fairview, that they'd taken over the entire operation. They'd taken their supplies. They were running operations in Fairview. And, I went down to Fairview that night and I walked into the command post, and OSFM and Fairview's command was all still in charge. There was one person from FEMA in Fairview, and this rumor came 3 miles away that FEMA had taken over their operation. It was completely false. That isn't happening, at least not where we are. As far as them bulldozing Chimney Rock, not to anybody's knowledge locally. Yes, there are excavators working in Chimney Rock because the town was partially washed away by the river. And what they're trying to do in Chimney Rock is redivert the river back to its original course. The river is 100 to 200 feet wider in some sections on 74 leading into Chimney Rock. The road is completely gone. The river found a new path when the water levels were as high as they were. The problem in Chimney Rock is that new path diverted itself into the town and washed away a large portion of town. In order to rebuild the town, they have to redirect that river back into its original path. So these rumors about company came in and people declined to sell their land, and now they, created this disaster in order to take people's land. No one ever tried to buy our land. That's not a thing. That didn't happen. Any of these government organizations that they're talking about coming in trying to buy anybody's land. We are working together as a community to get back on our feet and recover from this disaster. And the big thing is people coming in that don't need to be there. I don't know if they're there to try to get information on these rumors that are flying around or what they're doing, but we really just need people to stay out of our area right now so that we can rebuild.
Thank you. This is what I've been saying.
Yes.
I've been getting so many comments on my channel about, why am I not covering this, that, and the other, but just Asheville. I'm focusing on Asheville. Well, first of all, I live in Asheville. And second, I want to stay the hell out of your way and other people's way who are actually doing the job so that, they had enough of, I don't want to say influencers, but people just wanted to make videos.
We did have that. We had an influencer come in a Tesla with paper tags promising to buy people new cars and new houses.
Gosh.
Saying he wanted to interview people and this and that, and he didn't do any of it. He just wanted content for his page. And I get it, people, they're trying to capitalize on other people's misfortune. It happens. But right now, DOT is trying to rebuild that road, and the more people trying to drive on that road, the longer it's going to take them to do it.
Which is why I'm doing this right now with you.
Yeah. I want to clear something up, too. We never would have been able to recover as fast as we did without all of the people that came to our aid. The way that we were able to clear our roads and access all of our residents, and now we can drive a fire truck to every house in our district, was because people came and helped us. The community. We had people from other states, people from all over. In the first few days, they'd come in, they'd had chainsaws, they had side-by-sides, they had excavators, they had skid steers, and I didn't turn any of them away. For me, it was like, hey, what do you got? And they're like, we got 5 saws and 2 ATVs. Okay, cool. You're going to go with this person. You guys are going to this road. We're going to cut up that road. We need to be able to get a fire truck up it. And we couldn't have done that without the help of people who came to help us. At this point, we still have people showing up saying, we heard you guys still have search and rescue. And it's like, no, we finished that 10 days ago. This is not even a thing anymore. We know where everybody is. We've addressed all the emergencies. We are in recovery mode.
Can you tell roughly the percentage of area that saw significant destruction, and that's, mudslides, washed out roads, completely destroyed houses? Is it, just give me an idea. Is it half of that area?
It's tough to put a percentage on it because of the way everything's spread out. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of it's been, DOT came in and they did a phenomenal job. They rolled through there and they cleared landslides and they cleared trees and they rebuilt temporary roads, and they worked incredibly fast. A lot of that stuff has been fixed initially. Every road. Every bridge in Gerton was gone. Every bridge in Gerton was washed out. Most of the roads were inaccessible, impassable, pretty much all of them. You could not drive them. You could only walk them. So, as a percentage, initially, most of everything was inaccessible. As far as home damage is concerned, we did have a few residents who lost their homes, unfortunately. And there's damage to homes all over the place, but only a few residents experienced catastrophic damage.
Specifically here in Gerton and Batcave.
Specifically in Gerton and Batcave.
It's a different story in
Chimney Rock. That's a different story. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
By the time this video is going to come out, it's going to be probably a week from now. Mm-hmm. What do you think? The needs are shifting, and there are still people who are asking, what do you need? As well as everyone's going to get tired eventually, or there will be a fatigue, and people will start it's going to start fading away.
It's not going to be cool anymore.
Right. What do you think the needs going to be a week from now, 2 weeks, a month from now, especially going into winter, now colder months?
From a supply standpoint, we're very well taken care of on supplies. That's not really the issue. To be completely blunt honest, people need money. People are going to need money to do whatever it is they need to do when they need to do it. They need blankets, they need heaters, they need gas, they need whatever they need. We have stuff. That's not a problem.
And that's all over this
warehouse and
right here.
Many other places throughout the county. We have a huge stockpile of donations. Mm-hmm. But the expenses that insurance doesn't cover, the expenses that FEMA isn't going to cover, that's what people are going to need help with. I don't run GoFundMes. I haven't been trying to raise funds, so I wish I could tell people exactly where to donate the money, but the fire departments is a great place to start. People have put up their own, hey, can we have some help financially pages? That's where you're going to make a big impact. For me personally, I have probably $15,000 or $20,000 full of expenses that are directly related to this disaster. I mean, I use my own excavator. I blew up my own truck doing search and rescue. I use my own side-by-side doing search and rescue because that's all we had. And, insurance doesn't care. They're not going to pay for that. FEMA's not going to pay for that, and there's a ton of people like me who have these expenses that aren't going to get covered that need help with that stuff, It's not food, it's not water, it's not that stuff anymore. That's been taken care of. And this is going to be a long haul operation. We believe it's going to be 6 months before a lot of these communities are back to any semblance of normal with power and water and, accessibility and that kind of thing. So I would say financial donations would be a huge help to everyone right now. And then just not forgetting this happened. I think that another hurricane already hit Florida. If it would have been worse, it would have completely shifted the focus. But this is still a very real disaster for a lot of people. We won't be in our house for 6 months, and that's if it doesn't get condemned.
So you'll send me a few links. I'll put them in the description of the video, where people, if those who are inclined to donate, they can go ahead and donate. Like I said, Tony is a firefighter. He is a first responder. He was using his personal items, his personal vehicles, things to continue his work because, like you heard, there was no help for the first few days. So
nobody could get to us.
Right, nobody could get to them. There's a ton of people like that, so I'll put some links in the description.
Yeah, a lot of people have been declined by FEMA, declined by insurance. No one here has flood insurance. No one here has landslide insurance. I found out today, sitting with my insurance agent, that landslides are not covered. So if you find out that you had landslide damage to your house and it's a total loss due to a landslide, they won't cover you.
Bad luck, right?
Yeah, they say, oh, well, go talk to FEMA, So there's a lot of people in a really bad position from this that are going to need help, and they're not going to be able to get it, And it's pretty sad.